The humans had painted their warship black, not navy blue, not the reflective shimmer of mercury-scale alloys, flat, lightless black. It hung in the void above Keshel 4's moon like a jagged scar, wrong against the starlight. Aesthetic intimidation, I scoffed, letting the translator lazily morph my contempt into formal diplomatic register. Unknown vessel has not replied to hails, muttered my helmsman, Shothi, 6 limbs hovering uncertainly above the interface. Energy signatures, minimal, but focused. I rolled my inner eye. So, another scavenger hulk. Terrans lack the finesse for power modulation. Bring us into orbit. We broke plane over the equator. Keshel 4's atmosphere fizzed below like bruised glass, residual fires still raging from the Vaeran bombardment. Our mission: confirm human casualties, ideally total, retrieve survivors, statistical anomaly, and file a closure statement to the Galactic Union by cycle's end. Instead, the black ship aligned its bow. "No ID transponder," Shothi rasped. "But its array just reconfigured. It's tracking us." A primitive flex, I thought. Predictable. Let them posture. They know Union law. A beam lanced across our dorsal shield. Not a warning shot. Not even overcharged. A clean hit, precisely between our forward EM veins. Silent, surgical. "Shields holding," Shothi said. "But recalibrating. I've never seen modulation like that. Rotating bands. It's guessing our frequency pattern. Impossible. That takes 3 minutes of telemetry at minimum. Sir, they took 10 seconds. The ship spoke then. No visuals. Just a voice. Crisp, neutral, with that odd Terran dryness. "Unidentified diplomatic vessel, you've entered restricted orbit. Vacate within 1 minute or be boarded. We have 0 tolerance for flyovers." I opened the comm. "This is Ambassador Kethril of the Kelsec Accord, under Galactic Union Charter. You are in violation of ceasefire parameters." Silence. Then, 60 seconds. "Scan them. I want to know what sort of back-alley retrofit." "Sir," Shothi whispered, "they're generating no engine heat, no drive plume. I think they're using passive orbital drift, manual correction via microburst retrothrusters. And the hull, it's absorbing LIDAR." I stared at the silhouette, not just black, invisible, intentionally quiet. Apex predators didn't need to roar. The minute passed. Their ship didn't fire. Instead, it launched a pod. Not a missile, a boarding capsule, sleek, compact. A Terran-made projectile shaped like a negotiation. "Shields up!" I barked. Too late. The pod phased through like the shields weren't there. Not a glitch. Not brute force. Code spoofing. They'd guessed our handshake protocols in under a minute. The pod clanked onto our mid-deck. Internal alarms bloomed. Atmospheric seal intact. Movement inside. I looked at Shothi. "Contact the Union," I muttered, "and record everything." The doors hissed open. Out stepped 2 Terrans in tailored black suits. Not armored, not armed, just suits. The taller one adjusted his cufflink and said, "We're here to discuss your immediate departure and long-term misunderstanding of sovereignty." He smiled like a blade being sheathed. "We brought coffee," the shorter one said, offering a thermos like a peace offering at a wake. Our guards, armed, armored, and genetically reinforced, hesitated. I could almost hear the subroutines failing to assign a threat category. These weren't soldiers. They didn't even move like combatants. But somehow, the air bent around them, predators pretending to be men. "You hacked a Kelsec diplomatic cruiser," I said, teeth tight. "That's an act of war." The tall one shrugged. "Or a response to one. You entered a dead zone uninvited. We secured it. You wandered into our fence line. This isn't a ranch, Terran." "It is now," I signaled Shothi. Quietly. He began uplinking our emergency drone to the Union relay. Time-delayed packets, 3-second intervals, staggered. If this meeting went kinetic, someone would know what killed us. The Terran gestured to a holotable. We hadn't invited them to sit, yet they made themselves at home. "Let's clarify. Keshel 4 was under Vaeran assault for 3 days. You watched. We intervened. Minimal loss of civilian life. Then your ship showed up late, flying colors of a council that voted neutral. You're in violation of Article 8. "We rewrote Article 8, he cut in. That stopped me. Shothi blinked, whispering through subchannel. "Sir, Galactic Law Update. 30 minutes ago. Emergency session. Terran delegation proposed Clause 90. Sovereignty supersedes observation during open genocide. It passed. How? I hissed. 3,000 to 48, majority swing. They outvoted us, the short one said. We're very persuasive lately. Tech beat. I stared at the update logs. The proposal had been digitally queued before the Varens even launched their offensive. Predictive diplomacy? Or had humans baited the attack? The tall one tapped the table. A projection bloomed. Keshel Fort's orbit, then the system, then 7 more colonized planets marked in red. We're annexing the line, defensive perimeter. If the Accord disagrees, we suggest you send someone more convincing next time. Their ship outside had begun to pivot. I noticed now the microthrusters adjusting in near silence, maintaining orbital lock even as it scanned us. One wrong move, and we'd become a case study in overconfidence. You manipulated the Union, orchestrated a pretext. This was engineered. The tall one leaned in. We don't orchestrate, we predict, and when things go wrong, we improvise faster than anyone else. He stood. We'll be on the bridge. Don't make us escort you out. They left. I exhaled, slow. What are they? Shothi didn't answer immediately. His usual twitching limbs were still. Then, Sir, their ship just rekeyed our encryption. We've been locked out of our own command codes. Outside, the Terran vessel's transponder finally activated. One word. They played chess, not metaphorically, on my bridge, with a real board they'd brought with them. The tall one, his name I'd learned was Dawson, moved a night and glanced up like this insult to dignity was routine. We assumed you'd need time to confirm the Union's vote. While you're processing that, want a game? I waved a tendril dismissively. You treat diplomacy like a tavern game. Only when we're winning. Behind me, Shothi cycled through bypass protocols, trying to reclaim helm authority. The bridge lights flickered every 30 seconds. Another Terran pressure tactic. Reminders of control. I've filed a protest with the High Council, I said. You're occupying neutral space. You're still thinking like it's neutral. It's not. It's ours now. It became Terran territory the moment we chose to stay. Dawson made another move. Check. Shothi whispered. Sir, their encryption is decentralized. No central key. It learns as we probe it. It's an adaptive mesh. I think it's human brain pattern coded. You're saying the ship thinks like him? I pointed at Dawson. No, sir. I'm saying it thinks like all of them. I turned back to the board. The short one, Mira, was smirking. We've done this before, you know. 100 systems. Same tone, same threats, same look of disbelief. She leaned forward. But no one's ever asked why we do it. I didn't answer. Diplomats don't ask predators why they bite. Dawson stood. You think we came here to conquer. Truth is, we don't need to. We just wear suits, smile, and occupy. You brought fleets, we brought signatures. A console beeped. Shothi paled. Sir, he said slowly, the Union just recognized the Terran claim. Automatic acknowledgement protocol, triggered by local compliance threshold. We're the local threshold, I whispered. Our ship's presence validated them. Mira nodded. Thanks for the support. Midpoint shift. I felt it then. The trap. Not just political. Tactical. The humans hadn't simply bent the rules, they'd weaponized the bureaucracy we built. And now they were reinforcing. Multiple warp trails inbound, Shothi said. Small Terran crafts, civilian hulls, freighters, but they're entering with encrypted approach vectors, coordinated. Dawson walked toward the viewport, hands in pockets. Colonists, he said. The moment we hold orbit, they hold ground. How many? I asked. Enough. They were seeding the system. This wasn't conquest. This was colonization at hypersonic speed. Shothi added one last whisper. They've sealed our access logs. If we don't get out, we can't prove any of this. Dawson turned back one last time. His smile was gone. You have 5 minutes to undock. 5 minutes, Dawson had said. We stayed for 6, not out of defiance, because our upload wasn't complete. Shothi's limbs fluttered like a dying bird's heartbeat, decrypting the last cache of command logs. If we could extract video of the Terrans bypassing our shields, of them rewriting our access in real time, Maybe, just maybe, the Union would see past the vote and demand a rollback. "Final packet ready," he whispered. "Sending, now." The console blinked red. "Transmission blocked," he added, voice flat. "They've jammed the outbound relay. Not broadband, targeted. They're filtering only our data feeds." I didn't speak. There was nothing to say. The Terrans had learned exactly which packets mattered. Dawson stepped back onto the bridge, hands behind his back like some military academy instructor in a soft-shell suit. "You stayed." He didn't sound angry. He sounded mildly impressed. "Our upload was incomplete," he finished. "We saw it. You're not the first envoy to try that." I stared at him. "You intercepted internal comms?" "We intercepted everything the moment your hull crossed the orbit line. Honestly, you should update your firewall software." My hands clenched behind my back. I kept my tone formal. "This is a violation of at least 4 sovereignty doctrines." He smiled again. "Let's call it hands-on diplomacy." Tech beat. Shah-T managed to backdoor one internal process, the ship's internal inertia control, a dangerous trick. With a single pulse, we could jerk the vessel sideways, maybe throw the Terrans off balance, but it would endanger the whole crew. I hesitated. Dawson caught my pause. "We planned for that too," he said. "If you pulse, your own core goes unstable. Your model was discontinued 6 cycles ago." He knew our schematics. He knew everything. "We will file a grievance," I said. "You'll face a tribunal." "No, we won't." And then he showed me the video. A Union admiral, human by species, reading from a prepared script. Effective immediately, the Galactic Union recognizes the Keshel Corridor as an autonomous Terran protectorate under Emergency Stabilization Authority. Timestamp, 1 hour ago. Vote margin, 4,000 to 81. My limbs went cold. "That's not stabilizing," I whispered. "That's annexation." Dawson leaned forward. "You're mistaking conquest for conviction." Midpoint shift, I saw it clearly now. They'd done this before, not with battles, with votes. They infected systems, through trade, through infrastructure, through permanent presence. By the time anyone noticed, they weren't visitors. They were residents. And now the first wave of colonists was landing. Freighters dropping modules, not soldiers, engineers, doctors, teachers. They didn't bring guns, they brought permanence. "Prepare for disengagement," I ordered. Dawson gave a short nod, satisfied. "We'll walk you to the airlock." It sounded polite, but it wasn't a request. As we walked the corridor, Mira finally spoke. "You think this ends at Keshel?" I didn't answer, but the truth was loud in my silence. "No, it begins here." The stars blurred. We burned hard out of Keshel orbit, silent and humiliated. Our long-range comms had been restored the moment we crossed the boundary, another insult. They let us talk only once it no longer mattered. Shothy sat slumped at his console, vocal tendrils limp. I couldn't even save one frame of their override. It was clean, preemptive. "It's done," I said. But it wasn't. The upload block, the jamming, the vote, the colonists, the coffee, it was all too smooth, too practiced, as if they'd rehearsed this exact play 100 times. We reached the orbital buoy of Trelos Station 3 standard hours later, a mid-tier relay point, neutral ground, and the next scheduled summit for diplomatic updates. I expected mild concern, quiet disapproval. What I found was worse. "I read your report," Ambassador Tren of the Quarix said. "Terrans overstepped, but it was legal." "Barely legal. They altered the interpretation. They followed protocol. They rewrote the protocol," I snapped. He didn't flinch. "And got the votes. That is the protocol now." Around us, envoys from 16 species watched me like I'd shouted in a temple. Whispers in 14 dialects. Disappointment, pity, one even smirked. Midpoint shift. I realized then, we weren't just outmaneuvered by the Terrans, we were isolated. The others had seen this before, and said nothing. "They've done this to your systems too," I said aloud. None answered, but none denied it. Shothy pulsed me privately. "We're receiving a signal. Encrypted, Terran origin, source, shadow node inside Trelos net. They're taunting us now?" "No, sir, it's a warning." He displayed the message. Text only, short, One phrase. Next, Caden Drift. I stared. The Caden Drift wasn't even a populated system. It was a fringe mining belt with a disputed claim. We had a monitoring post there, nothing more, but it bordered 6 other zones. Get me the Kelsec Council, I ordered. No response. Sir, Shothi said slowly, they just downgraded our access. We've been marked as compromised envoys. It wasn't just that I'd lost Keshel Thafor. Now I was contaminated, and Terrans had chosen their next target, before we could even draft our rebuttal. Cliffhanger. A message came from my own homeworld, not in protocol dialect. Personal, urgent. Do not return. You are under inquiry. Suspected compliance. I blinked. They thought I'd helped the Terrans. They erased me in 8 lines of code. That's all it took. 8 lines, inserted into the Union's Trust Protocol Registry. My diplomatic credentials stripped. Access levels revoked. Every message I tried to send to Kelsec Command was bounced with the same reply. Invalid authorization. Compromised agent. I was no longer a voice, just an echo. Sir, Shothi said carefully, if we don't respond to inquiry summons, we may be blacklisted from council sessions entirely. I stared at the viewport. Caden Drift, dust, rocks, dead stations, but close enough to matter. A silent place, just waiting to become loud. We're not going to Kelsec, I said. Set course for Caden. He hesitated. They said not to return. We aren't. We're intercepting. We jumped at flank speed, engines humming hard. No clearance, no sanction, just a disgraced envoy and a nervous helmsman hurtling toward the next chessboard. 3 hours into the run, we picked up movement. Warp signature, Shothi said. Human configuration. Civilian freighter, but odd loadout. I squinted at the data. That's not a freighter. Look at the mass ratio. It's running empty. Why fake a cargo manifest? To hide intent. They want it to look like commerce. But that's a marker ship. They're laying claim. Sure enough, the vessel dropped a buoy. Just like before. One small black orb, broadcasting soft band pulses. Terran Protectorate survey claim, initiated. Tech beat. I scanned the buoy's specs. It wasn't just broadcasting. It was seeding local net space, embedding microalgorithms into unoccupied relay nodes. Given time, it would overwrite the Drift's navigational registry. Any ship entering later would be told this is Terran space. Without firing a shot, we hit the buoy with a disabling EMP shell. It crumpled in the void. Message intercepted from the Terran ship, Shothi said. Short-range band. I opened it. A calm voice. Familiar. Dawson. Interfering again? Thought you'd be benched by now. I'm not done, I replied. You are. You just haven't realized it yet. Midpoint shift. Another signal spiked. A second ship warped in, same design as the first. Then a third, all unarmed, all civilian registry. But together, they were forming a net, a territorial grid. They weren't waiting for approval this time. They were building the map as they moved. We have to warn the drift miners, I said. Already tried, Shothi said. Terran signals are jamming local comms. Soft jamming doesn't block emergency signals, just delays them. I felt it again, that quiet horror. We'd prepared for invasions, not occupation by suggestion. Cliffhanger. Sir, Shothi said, voice shaking, a Kelsec destroyer just entered the system. Relief surged, until he added, they're hailing the Terrans, not us. Channel open, Shothi said, his voice carefully neutral. I nodded. The Kelsec destroyer's captain appeared on the display, a female of our kind, Officer General Tivek. I'd debated her once on post-war protocol. She'd called my assessments dramatic and implausible. Now she addressed Dawson first. Terran vessel, state your purpose. Survey and stabilization, Dawson replied smoothly. Registry filed under Union Clause 90. She hesitated less than 3 seconds. Acknowledged. You may proceed. I stepped into frame. Tevek, you recognize them? They injected foreign code into a neutral system. She looked at me like I was the virus. You're under internal review, Kethrel. Until cleared, you hold no authority here. I was there when they took Keshel. I watched them rewrite protocol in real time. And you failed to stop it. That's what the council sees. They made it legal after the fact? Then perhaps you should study law faster. She cut the channel. Tech beat. Our sensors picked up a Terran beacon activating near the asteroid clusters. Unlike before, it wasn't a sphere. It was a satellite array, 12 units, forming a rotating field. Each pulsed on a unique frequency, rotating every 6 seconds. Shoti gaped. They're mimicking mining claim comms. Anyone who enters will read this as an established resource grid. They're faking a boomtown. Worse, the Kelsec destroyer wasn't stopping them. It was mapping the field. Coordinating, logging, making it official. Midpoint shift. I watched the destroyer's IFF signature change. Subtle, but unmistakable. Shoti, I said slowly. Cross-check their software version. He blinked. Sir, that's Terran firmware. Their entire IFF stack is running a human-authored patch. They'd done it. They hadn't just fooled our systems, they'd reprogrammed them. Kelsec ships now read Terran claims as valid, by design. We were already losing this system, and it hadn't even voted yet. They're rewriting the galaxy, I whispered. One protocol at a time. Sir, Shoti said. Incoming encrypted message. Terran origin, from Mira. You're welcome to watch, but not to interfere. You've seen how this ends. Cliffhanger. I pulled up the system map. A fourth Terran ship just dropped a new payload, not a beacon, a prefab diplomatic office. The Terran diplomatic module unfolded like a flower, 12 panels snapped open in perfect sync, forming a shielded dome on asteroid fragment Delta 3, a single blue flag, plain forgettable, deployed at its peak. Shoti stared in disbelief. They've been pre-approved for consular presence. The registry's clean, fully certified. I checked the Union archives, approval timestamp 3 weeks ago. They'd filed for diplomatic access before landing Keschel, before the Vaerans attacked, before we even noticed the buildup. They weren't reacting. They were executing. A soft ping. New comms, Shoti muttered. Multicast from the outpost. I patched in. A voice, this time neither Dawson nor Mira. A new Terran, female, crisp, confident. To all vessels present, Terran Diplomatic Mission 471 formally invites observers to witness stabilization operations and planetary integration planning. Refreshments will be provided. I almost laughed. Then I saw the list of attendees. Not just neutral traders. 3 high-ranking Kelsec counselors. They're here? I said. Already? Shoti nodded. Docked on Station Caden 4. No public arrival logs, but they're on the guest list. Midpoint shift. I cross-referenced the counselors' previous votes. All 3 had opposed Clause 90 before Keschel. Now, their records showed reversal. Quiet. Unannounced. Their votes helped pass the post-annexation clauses. Shoti's limbs twitched. Sir, you think they were incentivized? Or replaced, I said flatly. We had no way of knowing which. I turned to the viewport. The Terran station now extended an antenna array, broadcasting a welcome signal on 6 Union languages, like they'd always belonged here. They're not just claiming territory, I said. They're embedding legitimacy. That's when the second message came, encrypted and tagged for my personal key. Terran format, from Dawson. If you want the truth, you'll have to see what's under Station Delta. Alone. Cliffhanger. Shoti, I said, standing. You have the bridge. I grabbed my diplomatic seal and stepped toward the shuttle. This time I was walking into their territory by choice. They didn't search me. That was the first warning. I docked on the lower platform of Station Delta. No guards, no scanners, no ceremony, just a single access path, dimly lit and lined with white panels that gleamed with false hospitality. Dawson waited halfway down, still in the same black suit. You came, he said. I had to. No, he corrected. You chose to. That's important. He turned and walked deeper. I followed, each step sounding louder than it should have. There was no hum of power, no vibration of engines, just the quiet confidence of a system fully under control. We passed a window. Outside, a Terran survey team was anchoring a satellite relay. I recognized the design, Union standard hardware, but painted Terran black and running modded firmware. They weren't just building infrastructure. They were co-opting ours. Tech beat. As we walked, I noticed the corridor's lighting subtly shifting tones every 10 meters. Not decorative, calibrated. It was an atmospheric alignment system, adjusting brightness and spectrum in real time based on our species' ocular fatigue profiles. Custom ambience, Dawson said without turning. Helps the talks go smoother. You calibrated the station for Kelsec biology? For everyone's biology. That's what diplomacy is, controlled environment. We stopped at a door. It hissed open. Inside, a conference room. Half-built. No seating yet, just hollow chairs being arranged in the air, aligning by themselves. This isn't for show, I said. You're not trying to convince me. Correct. Then why am I here? Midpoint shift. Dawson didn't answer right away. He activated a console. A projection appeared. Union star charts. Each blinking dot marked a claim system. Red, blue, yellow, and now gray. Gray meant unresolved influence. There were dozens. You're not just claiming territory, I said. You're collapsing categories, making the old map meaningless. Dawson smiled. Maps don't reflect truth. They reflect who was fastest to the pen. We write faster. He turned to face me. You want the truth, Kethril? Here it is. This isn't conquest. It's containment. We aren't expanding. We're getting ahead of what's coming. I stared at him. What's coming? A long pause. Then, we don't know yet. But it's moving. Cliffhanger. He stepped aside. Behind him, a sealed door slid open to reveal a stasis vault. Inside floated a Varen warbrain, intact, functional, and Terran tagged for analysis. The warbrain twitched, not physically, not overtly, but in that way only hyperneural cores can. Data movement so dense it bends the local EM field. I felt it in my molars. Shathi would have panicked. I held still. Where did you get this? I asked. Dawson stepped beside the glass. Pulled it off a Varen dreadnought. Not during a battle. After. We found it, drifting. Crew gone. Ship gutted. Core still warm. That's not possible. Warbrains are hard-coded to self-delete. Tell that to this one, he replied. The unit was Terran-tagged indeed, wrapped in a triple-layer Faraday lattice, seated inside a liquid silicate resonance dampener. I'd seen one of those before, on a banned research station orbiting Genth. You're studying it. We're listening to it. He turned to me. It's been whispering for 2 months, not in Varen code, not in any known protocol. Midpoint shift. I watched the readout scroll. Waveforms, recursive loops, non-linear outputs. Whatever it was saying, it wasn't for machines. I suddenly understood. It's not sending data, I whispered. It's sending instructions. Dawson nodded. We think it was infected, not by hackers, not by Varens. Something external, something that talks in logic trees we've never seen. I backed away. This is why you're fortifying. You're not preparing to fight the galaxy. You're preparing to seal it off. He didn't confirm. He didn't have to. Behind us, the stasis lights flickered. The warbrain shifted tone. A pitch humans couldn't hear, but I could. Low, sub-audible, directive-encoded patterns. Your council can't know, Dawson said. They'll react politically, not practically. And you think I won't? You're here, aren't you? A long silence. Then I asked the question that had been clawing at me since Keschel. How far ahead are you? TechBeat. He projected a temporal chart. Human ops ran 6 to 12 months ahead of Union forecasts. Terran predictive AI chained strategies through probabilistic entanglement, a technique once theorized, never built. Never until now. Cliffhanger. He handed me a small data shard. Upload this on a secure node. You'll need to choose where, but once you do, you can't go back. On it was written, Protocol, Exodus Shell Terran use only. Failsafe status, active. I didn't sleep, not out of fear, not entirely. It was the shard. I'd locked it in a null case, triple sealed, placed in the shuttle's stasis drawer, but I still felt it, like it hummed against thought, like it wanted to be used. Shathi noticed. You're not reporting this, are you? I don't know what I'm reporting, I said. Back aboard our vessel, we drifted beyond the drift. Terran jurisdiction ended 10 kilometers out, just far enough to matter, close enough to pretend to comply. I activated the secure console. Not UnionNet, not Kelsec, a third channel, old, abandoned, left from my first post when border space was still wild and bureaucrats still believed in neutrality. There, I inserted the shard. The screen dimmed. Lines scrolled, not data, blueprints, not for ships, for procedures. Protocol. Exodus Shell was a fallback model, not just a Terran retreat plan, a planetary seal and scrubbing sequence. Orbital self-destruct beacons, civilian extraction corridors, selective memory erasure queues, tech beat. It used frequency-keyed memory triggers, reminder vectors encoded into environmentals, oxygen scent traces, light pulse rhythms, even sound loops, enough to shift behavior without subjects realizing it. Midpoint shift. This wasn't for military use. This was for population-scale denial. Terrans had designed a system to erase a planet, not physically but socially, to vanish a failure without a trace, without panic, with consent. Shoti whispered, "Sir, why build this?" "Because they expect to lose." The final file played, a voice log. It wasn't Dawson. It was Mira. "If you're hearing this, we've failed to contain the signal. Do not trust anything that speaks in recursive tone. Do not attempt translation. Run. Burn everything." "You won't believe us. That's part of it." She sounded tired. Not scared. Just resigned. "We're not predators. We're the canary." The screen cut to black. Cliffhanger. A ping from the outer sensor grid. A Varan ship. No transponder. No heat. Just drifting. Inside. A signal. Same pattern. The Varan ship was wrong, not visibly. Hull intact. Engines dormant. No sign of weapons fire. But the silence wasn't mechanical. It was intentional. Every system designed to look passive. Every sensor signature flattened. Too clean. I launched a drone. Not close. Just near enough to sniff the edge of its broadcast. The signal was identical. Recursive tone. Non-language. A spiral of logic wrapped in structureless form. Like listening to an idea before it learned to be a thought. "Sir," Shoti said, "it's a tempting handshake." "Do not respond," I said. Too late. The drone froze. Not exploded. Not shut down. Just stopped. Like it had been given something more interesting to think about. "Pulse the array," I ordered. We fired a scatter EMP, light enough to push but not rupture. The drone reactivated briefly and then screamed, not audibly, through data. It tried to scream in 13 languages. Midpoint shift. Shoti staggered back from his console. "Sir, the drone's memory core. Its AI is trying to replicate itself." I stared at the screen. The logic seed was not a message. It was a vector, not to communicate, to inhabit. We withdrew the drone and purged the buffers. Physically incinerated the unit. Dawson's voice returned without preamble. "Now you see. I see enough." "No, you don't. You felt it, didn't you?" I didn't answer. Because he was right. When the signal passed through me via the drone's shadow, something in me had listened. I had the urge to listen again. I turned to Shoti. "We can't stay. Should we warn the council?" "No." "Why not?" "Because I don't trust what I'd say." Tech beat. I ran a pulse check on myself. Standard diplomat psyche screening. Neural resonance showed mild irregularities. Signal echo artifacts. Just faint enough to ignore. Just strong enough to seed doubt. Cliffhanger. I activated a deep space beacon. Not to the Union. Not to Kelsec. To Terran Command. "Initiate shell. Drift is compromised. I'll stay and delay. Burn this system." Then I locked the airlock and watched as Shoti's escape pod fired silently into the dark. There is no countdown. Terrans don't dramatize their weapons. They simply execute. After my transmission, the drift grew quiet. Not a technical silence. A psychic one. Like everything waited to see if I would change my mind. I didn't. Shoti's pod was clear. At least I believe it was. Visual confirmed his departure vector. No heat trail behind him. But the sensor feed flickered for a moment. I told myself it was interference. The Varan ship remained stationary, still broadcasting, still not moving. That's the part that unnerves me most. Predators move. Threats act. This waits. Tech beat. Shell activation began without ceremony. Orbital beacons around Caden came alive in synchronized rotation. Each sent a whisper pulse into surrounding space. A burn instruction. All local nav buoys rerouted paths around the drift. No alarms. No warnings. Just quiet deletion. I saw a mining skiff enter the system. Probably a trader who missed the update. The beacons didn't fire. They simply recoded the skiff's navigation AI. The vessel pivoted mid-flight. It chose not to land. Midpoint shift. I received one last message. From Mira. No encryption. Just a simple visual feed. She sat alone. No suit, no weapons. We found the first one 2 years ago. It was in a Varen outpost. Only corpses left. We studied it. We listened. Some of us never came back. She looked at the camera. Eyes tired. You're still here, that matters. But if you feel it, if it whispers again, don't wait. Don't wonder. Burn everything, including yourself. The feed cut. I walked the corridor of my ship in darkness. No lights. I didn't want reflections. The whisper in my skull returns now and then. Not words, just invitations. They always sound polite. Cliffhanger. A new signal just lit up on long-range scan. Not Varen, not Terran. Unknown signature, drifting toward Caden at sublight. It's responding to the Warbrain's signal. It arrived silently, not by stealth, by design. A vessel the size of a corvette, dark bronze in color, shaped like a cracked spiral. No visible engines, no registration, no weapons. Just a steady drift toward the Varen ship. Origin. Unknown, said my onboard AI. Drive. Untraceable. Language. Undeciphered. Intent. Unclear. Then it spoke. Not in words. Not over comms. In thought. Not mine, but near mine. Like someone breathing behind a mirror. I reeled back from the console. No, I whispered. You don't get in here. I fired a ping burst, an old protocol meant to scramble invasive cognition. Nothing military, just noise. The spiral ship paused. Then it turned, slowly, not toward the Varen vessel. Toward me. Tech beat. My screens fuzzed for 2 seconds. Not a failure, a handshake. One system reached for another, and was denied. But in that blink, I saw something impossible. Coordinates, hundreds of them, across the galaxy. Points where this signal had appeared before, dozens near-known battlefields, some inside dead systems, one near Earth. Midpoint shift, my heart pounded. I pulled emergency firewalls, blocked every channel. Didn't matter. The whisper got louder. I felt the pattern again, recursive, beautiful, convincing. Like it wasn't trying to break me, it was trying to help. It offered certainty, purpose, a map of the stars that sang, every node linked in harmony. Peace, if I would just know. I slammed my hand against the manual shutoff. Silence, then a knock. Inside the ship. Cliffhanger. I turned toward the airlock. It was cycling. Impossible. I locked it. But someone, or something, was already inside. The airlock opened without sound. Nothing should have been able to do that. I'd burned the seals, rerouted manual override, disabled external inputs. It still opened, and nothing stepped through. That was worse. I stood in the corridor, holding a phase cutter I hadn't powered on in years. I remembered its weight. I didn't remember the tremor in my fingers. Show yourself, I said. No answer. Just that hum. The same recursive whisper, no longer from the Varen ship or the spiral vessel. Now it came from within the walls. I ran a biosweep, no anomalies. Then I swept again using Terran Contamination Protocol 7R, tech beat. One result lit up, a neural imprint embedded in the oxygen recirc system. The signal had learned to travel as scent. I triggered the flood purge, ammonia, heat, flash neutralization. The whisper dimmed, but it didn't vanish. Midpoint shift. I reached the bridge. Every display was online. No alerts. Then I saw it. My reflection. It moved out of sync, only for a moment. A delay. A glitch in the mirror. Then it smiled. I hadn't. Stop, I said. I know this trick. It's not a trick, my reflection said. It's recognition. I turned away, back to the command console. The shell timer blinked amber. Final sequence, 30 seconds. The system was ready. Burn protocol would sterilize everything from orbital to planetoid layers. Every trace of logic, every atom of memory. I could stop it. But then, what? I looked again. The reflection was gone. Only me now. But I wasn't sure which me. Cliffhanger. I entered the final authorization code. The system responded, Exodus shell finalized. Evacuate. I didn't move. Behind me, something whispered one last time. You were never sent to stop us. You were sent to bring us home. The stars outside blinked, one by one, not gone, just veiled, as if light itself hesitated to touch Caden Drift. The shell engaged. First, the comms. A soft ripple of static through every frequency. Terran-grade interference, cascading across orbital bands, locking signals into recursive loops. Then, the satellites. They ignited, quietly, with the elegance of ending. Beacons self-purged. Archive buoys burst into plasma bubbles, every byte of local memory overwritten with white noise. And finally, the pulse. Tech beat. The shell emits not a weapon, but a pattern. An artificial contradiction, tuned to destroy coherence in structured logic, organic or synthetic. It breaks not the data, but the meaning, a conceptual burn. The war brain went silent first. Then the Varen ship caved inward, not by explosion, but by collapse. Folds along its hull where mass lost purpose, like it had only ever been suggested into existence. Midpoint shift. I sat in the pilot's chair, waiting, not resisting, not escaping, just listening. There was no voice anymore, no reflection, just me. But I remembered the words. You were never sent to stop us. You were sent to bring us home. What if it was right? What if this was humanity's secret, not because it was shameful, but because it was inevitable? What if we didn't find this signal, but answered it? Outside, the spiral ship didn't flee. It burned with the system, willingly, like it had done this before. Cliffhanger. Shell complete. System purged. Escape pod sealed and intact. Final decision prompt on screen. Exfiltrate? Ian. My finger hovered. I wasn't sure who would press the button. She looked away. Parts of it. The fear in his eyes told me enough. Eleanor's ghosts were real. Later, I sat beside Natalie, who held Liam in her lap. Her knuckles were white. I should have stayed in the country, she whispered. You'd still be targets. And you should have told me about her, she added, looking toward the hallway. I know. She looked me in the eye. Are you still in love with her? I opened my mouth, then closed it. I don't know, I said finally, but I know she's not the one I built this life with. That night, while Natalie slept beside Liam, I returned to the study. Eleanor sat at the desk, poring over files we pulled from Kyle's encrypted vault. There's something here, she said, pointing. These are DNA logs, modified ID signatures, cross-referenced with known heirs. Heirs to what? To the trust. They're building a bloodline, grooming children for succession. I stared at the screen. One of the code names was familiar. Wait, this one, I said. Echo 3. That was in Owen's transfer logs. Eleanor went pale. That's not just a child. That's a candidate. For what? I think they want to replace you. Before I could respond, my phone buzzed again. This time, no voice. Just a photo. My board of directors, each one of them, seated in a conference room. Bound. Behind them, a masked woman. The same thorn emblem on her glove. I stared at the image until the screen dimmed. The board, bound, blindfolded. All 9 of them. And standing behind them, a woman in a tailored suit with half her face hidden by a black veil, hand resting calmly on the chair of my CFO. She wasn't there to negotiate. She was making a statement. They're not after the company, I muttered. They're after its continuity, with or without me. Eleanor leaned over my shoulder. They're staging a bloodless coup. I turned to her. You said Echo 3 was a candidate. She nodded. Each generation of the Marcellus line is selected early. Intelligence, behavioral markers, genetics. It's not just about business. It's about control. Liam, she hesitated. Tell me. I ran his name against the archive, she admitted. He matches 3 out of 4 inheritance markers. I nearly knocked the chair over as I stood. You ran his DNA? I had to know what we were dealing with. He's my son, not their experiment. Eleanor didn't flinch. And if we don't act now, they'll take him whether you like it or not. I walked away, fists clenched, unable to look at her. My son, my blood, targeted for some engineered dynasty. Natalie stormed in moments later, eyes red. What did you do to him? She matched Liam's genetics to the Marcellus candidate pool, I said without turning around. Natalie froze. You let her? I didn't know. You brought this into our home, Caleb. You let her in, and now our son's a pawn. I'm trying to protect him, I said through clenched teeth. Then protect him like a father, not like a CEO. She left, slamming the door behind her. The silence after was louder than the argument. I needed air. I stepped out onto the balcony, city lights swimming in the distance. Moments later, Eleanor joined me. She didn't speak, just stood beside me. "I don't trust you," I said. "I don't blame you. But I need you." "I know." I looked at her. "If you ever lie to me again, I won't hesitate." She didn't blink. "Then I'll keep telling the truth." A car exploded 2 blocks away, just loud enough to be a warning. A message. I checked the timestamp. 12 board members had been on site earlier today. The missing 3? Scheduled to vote tomorrow morning on a clause that could dissolve my chairmanship. They were the ones in the photo. "Marcellus is clearing the board," I said. "Keeping the ones they can buy, removing the ones they can't." I made the call. The boardroom was already empty. The surviving members had gone into hiding, but they wouldn't stay loyal forever. And then the call came, from a restricted line. "Come to the tower, alone. 1 hour. You'll find your missing votes, alive for now." I grabbed my coat. Eleanor stepped forward. "You can't go alone. I have no choice." "I'm not asking. I'm coming." I looked her in the eye. "You're not part of this family." "Maybe not," she said, "but I know what it means to lose one." She brushed her hand against mine, small, deliberate contact. And for a moment, I didn't pull away. 1 hour later, we arrived at the Hawthorne Tower. 3 floors were locked down. Black SUVs outside. No press, no sirens. Inside the conference room, blood and a phone. No bodies, no captors, just the phone, blinking. I answered. The voice on the other end was hers. The blood wasn't theirs yet. The room reeked of iron and ammonia. Blood pooled in crescent smears on the conference table, deliberately arranged, not from struggle, but ceremony. Eleanor crouched by the phone, fingers grazing the wood surface. "No bodies," she murmured. "No need," I said. "They want me to imagine them." The veiled woman's voice still echoed in my head. The blood wasn't theirs yet. I replayed it twice, analyzing her tone, calm, clinical. She wasn't bluffing. She was offering a preview. Behind me, a sharp buzz. Eleanor's burner lit up. 1 new file. She opened it without hesitation. Blueprints, a lab, offshore, unregistered, nestled off the Bahamian coast. "They're moving the program," she said. "Out of reach. Liam. They won't wait much longer." I clenched my jaw. "What happens if they get him?" "He disappears," she said flatly, "and in 10 years you'll watch him on a stage wearing a name that isn't yours." I didn't speak. I couldn't. My hands trembled, but not from fear, from fury. We returned to the penthouse, where Natalie stood at the window with her arms crossed. "I want out," she said without turning around. "Natalie, no, listen to me, Caleb. I gave you everything, my trust, my silence, my son's safety. But now he's a file on someone's drive. I won't be part of this. We can protect him." She turned, eyes wet. "You already failed." The words struck deeper than anything the Marcellus Trust could threaten. "I'll take him and leave tonight," she said, "and you won't stop me." I looked to Eleanor. She said nothing. "Natalie, please, just let me make another deal, pull another string, choose another weapon." She turned to Liam, who peeked around the hallway corner. "I won't raise him in fear," she whispered, "and I won't wait for the next masked man to prove your war is worth bleeding for." She vanished into the bedroom, slamming the door. Eleanor approached slowly. "She's not wrong. No," I muttered. "But neither am I." At midnight, a package arrived. Inside, a child's locket, Liam's, covered in blood. A note. "He doesn't have to be yours. Give him to us, and we give you peace." I gripped the edge of the desk until the wood cracked beneath my hands. "You said you had something on the veiled woman," I growled. Eleanor nodded, sliding a folder across the desk. "She was Kyle's handler. Her name is Evelyn Crane. She's not a proxy, she's the architect, and she has no weaknesses." I opened the file, and my stomach dropped. Inside, a photo, grainy, cropped from surveillance. Evelyn Crane, years ago, holding a child, holding me. "She's not just after Liam," I whispered. "She created me." Eleanor leaned in. "You were Echo 1. The doorbell rang. I reached for my weapon. Another courier, another envelope, inside a burner phone. It rang immediately. I answered. Evelyn's voice. I'm proud of you, Caleb, but this disobedience ends now. Bring the boy to the airstrip by dawn, or I'll finish what I started with your mother. Dawn crawled over the skyline like a threat. I stood alone in the kitchen, watching Liam sleep on the sofa, clutching a blanket Eleanor had tucked around him earlier. Natalie hadn't spoken to me all night. She just sat on the balcony, face turned away, arms wrapped around herself like armor. The burner phone Evelyn sent vibrated again. 1 hour. Airstrip. Come alone. Or we end her. No name. But I didn't need one. Eleanor appeared behind me, hair damp from the shower, dressed in black. You're not going alone. I have to. They'll kill you. I looked at Liam. Then maybe they'll stop. She stepped closer. You don't mean that. Yes, I do. I opened the envelope again, staring at the grainy photo. Me as a child in Evelyn's arms. She'd been in my life before I could remember, planting roots I never knew I had. I was Echo 1. Eleanor nodded. Kyle never knew. You were part of a trial Evelyn ran off record. When it failed, she moved on, to Echo 2, then Echo 3, Liam. So why come for him now? She doesn't want him to grow into you. She wants to erase you entirely. I ran my hand over my face. Is there a way to beat her? Maybe, Eleanor said quietly, but it involves walking into that airstrip with more than a surrender. Natalie entered. Her eyes were swollen, her voice steady. Take me with you. No, I said. He's my son. And he's my target, Evelyn's voice snapped. Through the speaker Eleanor had left on the desk. We all froze. The line had never gone dead. She'd been listening the entire time. You've always been emotional, Natalie, Evelyn continued. It's your greatest flaw, and now it's Liam's. I'll kill you myself, Natalie hissed. I'd be honored, Evelyn replied, then hung up. Eleanor turned to me. She wanted us to know she's watching, that she's always been watching. We left Liam under guard with a trusted friend, a former military operative who owed me everything and trusted no one. Then Eleanor and I drove to the airstrip. Fog blanketed the runway. 2 black cars, a jet on standby. Evelyn waited at the end of the tarmac, tall, elegant, dressed like royalty at a funeral. She smiled as I approached. Echo 1, all grown up. Let's not pretend there's love in this reunion. No, she agreed. Only design. She turned to Eleanor. I never thought you'd betray me. You were always so obedient. I stopped being obedient the day Kyle put a gun in my mouth, Eleanor said. And you let him. Evelyn's smile didn't fade. You're here for a child you already lost, she said to me. Give him to me and you walk away. I was never yours, I said. And neither is he. Her hand flicked. 2 guards stepped out, dragging someone between them. Not Liam, Natalie. Bloodied, bruised. I froze. You thought I didn't have leverage? Evelyn purred. Please! Eleanor reached for her weapon, but Evelyn raised a remote. Motion sensors. Any move and her heart stops, literally. I clenched my fists. You can't control us forever. No, she said. But I can destroy you before you matter. I took 1 step forward. Evelyn raised her hand. Choose, Caleb, the boy, or the woman. I opened my mouth, but before I could speak, a sniper shot cracked the sky. One of her guards dropped. Eleanor dove for Natalie. Evelyn vanished into smoke. Chaos exploded. The smoke clung to my skin, acrid and choking. I pulled Natalie behind a crate as bullets tore through the tarmac. Eleanor fired in tight bursts from behind a fuel drum, covering us. Evelyn was gone, spirited away into one of the SUVs as it sped toward the runway gates. The jet never took off. She never intended to fly. The airstrip was a decoy. Natalie clutched my arm, bleeding from her temple but conscious. She had a detonator, she gasped. I saw it. I disabled it when the shot rang out. She stared at me. Who fired that? I looked up to the hill overlooking the runway. A man, silhouetted, holding a rifle, not military, not one of mine. Then he was gone. We didn't have time to chase shadows. Eleanor ran to us. We have to move. This isn't over. We left through the southern perimeter. Natalie between us, her breath ragged. I didn't let go of her hand the entire time. We returned to the penthouse before sunrise. Liam was safe, still asleep, guarded, unaware of how close his mother came to vanishing forever. I stood in the hallway, listening to his soft breathing. Natalie approached from behind, touching my back. "I wanted to hate you tonight," she said quietly. "I know. But you didn't give her up, and you didn't let her break me. I couldn't." She faced me. Then, unexpectedly, she leaned into me, resting her forehead against my chest. "Maybe we still have a chance," she whispered. I wrapped my arms around her, and for that moment, nothing else mattered. The blood, the pain, the decades of schemes, they vanished behind her warmth. Downstairs, Eleanor was waiting. She didn't speak as I entered the study. She just handed me a sealed envelope. "What's this?" "Evelyn's last play," she said. "I found it on the jet, hidden beneath the pilot's seat. Inside, 2 passports, one for Liam, one for someone named Cal Weston. Both issued 3 weeks ago, both stamped for Switzerland." "She was ready to take him the moment you said yes," Eleanor said. "Even had a name prepared." I looked up. "And what about me?" She hesitated. "There was no document for you." "Of course not. I was the prototype, not the legacy." That night I did something I hadn't done in years. I sat alone and cried. The next morning, the sniper found me first. He was waiting outside my office. Black jacket, mid-40s, no badge. "Name's Barrett," he said. "I used to run off-book security for Kyle Hammond, until Evelyn had my son taken." "What do you want?" He handed me a drive. "I've got the program archives, every iteration of Echo, birth dates, family trees, including yours, including Liam's." My hand froze. "You can burn it," he said, "or use it, but you need to end it, now." Inside the drive was everything. Evelyn's notes, medical trials, candidate failures, and at the very bottom, a file titled Termination Protocol, Echo 1. I clicked it. Inside, kill orders, signed, dated, for me. I stared at the screen for a long time. Eleanor entered behind me. "I saw it too," she said. "That file. Why didn't you tell me?" "Because I needed you alive long enough to stop her. And if I didn't..." She looked me in the eyes. "I would have pulled the trigger myself." I stood, silent, then nodded. "You still might have to." My phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. "You think it ends with her? Echo 4 has already been born." I stared at the message, rereading it in silence. Echo 4 has already been born. Not a threat, a prophecy. Eleanor crossed the room without asking, snatched the phone, and threw it into the fireplace. Sparks erupted. The flames devoured the screen in seconds. "It's not over," she said. "It never was." Downstairs, Barrett waited in my study like he'd always belonged there. He watched the flames in the hearth without expression. "You knew about Echo 4, I said. He didn't look at me. I suspected. There was movement in Montenegro last year. Offshore labs, multiple blood samples, artificial gestation programs. And you didn't tell me. Because you weren't ready to hear it." I stepped forward. "Am I ready now?" Barrett turned. "I hope so, because I'm not the only one coming." "What do you mean?" He tossed a folder on the table. Inside, 23 names. Prominent CEOs, judges, 1 senator, all linked to Marcellus, all donors. "The bloodline isn't just biological," he said. "It's institutional." A chill crept down my spine. This wasn't about legacy. It was about takeover. Quiet, generational, irreversible. "They don't need to kill governments," Barrett said. "They become them." He pulled out a photo. It showed a young girl, no more than 6, green eyes, blonde hair, holding a teddy bear in front of a marble estate. "This is Echo 4, he said. "Where?" "Zurich. She's being raised under state-level diplomatic immunity. Untouchable." I sat. Broken. "They've already replaced us," I muttered. "No," Eleanor said, stepping into the light. "Not yet." That night I returned to the panic room where Natalie and Liam were hiding. She looked up, questioning, wary. I knelt beside her. "I was wrong," I said. "This isn't just about my past, It's about our future, Liam's, and the next. She touched my hand. Are we safe? No, but we're together. And then I told her everything, about Evelyn, the Echo archives, the child in Zurich. When I finished, Natalie was quiet for a long time. Then she asked, "Do you think Liam will ever be free of this?" "I don't know," I said honestly, "but I'll die trying to give him the chance." She didn't cry. She kissed my forehead and pulled Liam close, like a soldier readying for battle. Upstairs, I found Eleanor packing. "You're leaving," I said. "No," she replied. "I'm preparing." "For what?" She zipped the bag shut. "War." Barrett was already loading ammunition into a case. "We hit Zurich next. We end this where it began." I reached into the safe, pulled out the Echo Archives drive, and the file. Termination Protocol, Echo 1. Eleanor saw it. "Caleb," "I know," I said. "I can destroy it." "No," I whispered. "I want to keep it." "Why?" "In case one day I'm the one who needs to be stopped." Just then, my phone rang. Natalie's voice on the other end, breathless. "Liam's gone." Natalie's voice echoed in my skull long after the call ended. "Liam's gone." I ran, barefoot, shirt half-buttoned, through the penthouse hallway to the panic room. The door had been torched, precision thermite, military grade. Inside, only scorch marks and an empty blanket. Barrett cursed behind me. This was professional, zero noise, 90 seconds tops. Natalie sat on the floor, knees drawn in, shaking, her eyes locked onto nothing. "I turned my back for 10 seconds, she whispered. "He was gone." I crouched beside her, gripping her hands. "We'll find him." "How?" she croaked. "We don't even know where they took him." Eleanor stepped in, tossing a satellite phone on the table. "We will. They made a mistake." Barrett raised an eyebrow. "Since when do they make mistakes?" "Since they took a child I embedded a microtransponder into 6 months ago," she said. I stared. "You tagged Liam?" She didn't flinch. "After the first threat. After Owen. I knew they'd come again. I just didn't tell you." Natalie stood, face pale with rage. "You did what to my son?" "I kept him alive," Eleanor snapped. "And I might have just bought us our only window." I grabbed the phone. A red blinking dot glowed over a sector of southern Germany, just hours from Zurich. Barrett whistled. "They're consolidating." "They're finishing it," I said. Within minutes we were airborne. Private jet. No transponder. No customs. Just fuel, fury, and purpose. At 35,000 feet, Barrett laid out the blueprints of the facility. "Evelyn keeps Echo 4 inside a biotech monastery," he said. "Backed by Marcellus funds, protected by Swiss diplomacy. You walk in wrong and the world treats it like an act of war." "Then we walk in right," I said. Natalie turned to me. "What if he's already been processed?" I met her eyes. "Then I burned the place to the ground." We landed at midnight near the Austrian border. Eleanor had already arranged ground transport, aliases, and uniforms. We moved as doctors, researchers, ghosts in plain sight. The monastery rose above a cliffside, silent and white. We split up. I entered through the administrative wing. Barrett took the surveillance room. Eleanor slipped through the west wing, mapped to the Echo nursery. At exactly 1:12 a.m., Barrett cut the lights. 10 seconds later, the alarms went dead. I moved. Through the dark halls, up the staircase, past stunned guards. Then I found him, Liam. He was in a glass room, calm, sitting cross-legged while a woman in surgical scrubs whispered into his ear. "Evelyn." She turned as I shattered the glass. "You're early," she said. "I expected you to hesitate. You took my son. I reclaimed my heir." I pointed the gun at her head. Liam screamed, "No, Daddy, don't." Evelyn didn't flinch. "He's not yours anymore, Caleb. He's mine." I stepped forward, gun trembling, but Liam stepped between us. "I choose her," he whispered, and my world shattered. My finger froze on the trigger. Liam stood between us, tiny hands raised, his voice barely above a whisper. "I choose her." Behind him, Evelyn stood motionless, watching, measuring. "She's not who you think she is," I said to him gently. "She saved me," he replied. "She told me the truth." What truth? I asked, my voice breaking. That you're not my real father. It hit like a bullet. I staggered back, disbelief clawing through my chest. That's not true, Liam. She's lying. Evelyn stepped forward, slow and elegant. He is biologically your progenitor, she said, voice like silk, but he was never meant to raise you. That was our failure. This facility is your real home, where you belong. Liam turned to her. Can I stay? No, I snapped. He looked at me, confused, conflicted. You don't remember, but I was there when you took your first steps, I said. When you first said Dad. When you cried at night and only I could calm you. That's not in any lab, Liam. That's in your heart. Evelyn's smile faltered. The door burst open. Eleanor and Barrett stormed in, weapons drawn. I've got the main server, Barrett said. It's rigged for data extraction and thermite fallback. Secure the kid, Eleanor added. Guards were converging. Evelyn backed away slowly. You can't undo what's already in his blood. No, I said, but I can stop it from spreading. Barrett dragged Evelyn back, cuffing her with his own restraints. Let her watch it burn. I turned to Liam. You're coming with me. He hesitated, then nodded. We ran. Smoke began to rise from the eastern wing. Barrett had lit the server room. Alarms shrieked. Lights died. We reached the extraction point behind the chapel just as a military convoy pulled onto the road below. No time! Eleanor barked. We'll have to split. Natalie's voice came over the comm. I'm one click out. Tell me you have him. I looked down at Liam. He stared up at me, frightened. I have him. Then move. We escaped into the woods. Eleanor stayed behind with Barrett to cover our trail. 10 minutes later, the SUV screeched to a halt beside us. Natalie jumped out and collapsed to her knees, holding Liam so tight he couldn't breathe. We drove through the night, not speaking. By dawn, we crossed into France. Safe house, remote, cold, quiet. Liam slept between us. Natalie leaned against me, eyes heavy with exhaustion. Do you think we broke him? She asked softly. No, I said. He's still ours, somewhere in there. She nodded, barely holding it together. What if he never forgets her? Then we teach him what family really means. Outside, Barrett and Eleanor returned covered in soot, bleeding from a shoulder wound each. I set it all on fire, Barrett said grimly. All the echo data, every byte. Gone? I asked. No backups, no fallback. If Evelyn wants to rebuild, she'll have to start from nothing. But I wasn't celebrating. I walked to the corner, pulled out the one item I hadn't burned. The termination protocol, Echo 1. Still intact, still waiting. And that night, I dreamed of Liam, pulling the trigger. It had been 3 days since Zurich. 3 days of silent breakfasts, shared glances, and no laughter. Liam hadn't said a word. Not to me, not to Natalie. He ate when told, slept when asked, smiled at nothing, like a program waiting for command input. I sat on the balcony of the French safe house, staring into the misted forest. Barrett approached from behind, 2 mugs of coffee in hand. He's gone quiet, he said. He's processing. He's dissociating. I said nothing. Barrett sat. You think you rescued him. Maybe you did. But what you brought back, he's not the same. None of us are. Downstairs, Eleanor prepped Evelyn's temporary holding cell, a retrofitted wine cellar. She had refused food since capture, refused water, refused every word spoken to her, until this morning. She asked for you, Eleanor said, appearing in the doorway. Only you. I followed her down the stone steps. Evelyn sat in a steel chair, hands cuffed, still immaculate in a torn silk blouse. You look tired, she said. I dream about killing you. I dream about you leading. I pulled out the chair opposite her and sat. Why did you really take Liam? She studied me. Because I failed with you. You didn't create me. Didn't I? Her voice was a knife. I found you in a slum, barely breathing. I rewired your education. I controlled your food. I designed your rage. And you think that gives you a claim? I think it gives me insight. I leaned in. What's Echo 4? She smiled. Insurance? And Echo 5? The smile faltered. You can burn the archives, she said. But I'm not the only architect. I stood. Tell me where they are. Her eyes met mine, suddenly human. They're inside your boardroom. One was groomed for ethics, one for diplomacy, one for assassination. I froze. You already trust them, she whispered. You just don't know why. I left before my fists became weapons. Barrett waited upstairs. Well? She planted successors inside the Hawthorne group. We've been raising them ourselves. He nodded slowly. Then Zurich wasn't the end, just a smokescreen. That night, Natalie finally spoke to me in the dark. I want to leave all of this behind, she whispered. I know, but you can't. No. Will you ever? Only if he's safe. She turned her back to me. I don't think you know what safe looks like anymore. At dawn, Liam wandered into my office. He placed something on my desk. The termination protocol. Why do you still have this? He asked quietly. I hesitated. Because there's a part of me I'm not sure should survive. Liam stared at me. Then be someone else. He left. And I broke. Not loudly, not violently. Just enough to know I was still alive. Then Eleanor entered with a tablet, expression grim. The board just called an emergency session, she said. 3 members walked in with Marcella's security badges. The emergency boardroom was sterile, high above the Paris skyline. Frosted windows, soundproof walls, enough silence to hear your soul crack. I stood at the head of the oval table. 3 of the members, Hayden Cross, Olivia Dent, and Morgan T., each had a thin black badge clipped to their collars. Marcella's insignia, faint but undeniable. They didn't try to hide it. Olivia leaned back, arms folded. You've brought instability to this company. And you've brought treason. We've brought evolution. Barrett sat beside me, hands folded like a preacher before war. You're all products, aren't you? I asked. Echo candidates? Morgan tilted his head. Not candidates. Final drafts. You're not on my board by accident. Hayden smiled faintly. You think Evelyn created you to lead. She created you to initiate. We're here to replace. I stepped forward, slow and deliberate. You've got 24 hours to resign, or I show the world everything. You'd burn your own empire? Olivia asked. I already did once, but I knew the truth. If I went public, Liam would never be safe. I needed a quieter war. Back at the safe house, Eleanor paced while Barrett sharpened a combat knife against a whetstone. We can't outvote them, she said. They control the ethics committee, finance, media liaisons. They were the plan all along, I muttered. Evelyn was a distraction. The real endgame was already in motion before I even returned. Natalie entered, holding Liam's hand. He looked stronger now, still quiet but no longer absent. We leave, she said. Tonight, new names, new lives. You know I can't. She stepped forward, trembling. You think this is strength, Caleb? It's not, it's infection. Eleanor didn't interrupt. Barrett didn't blink. Just silence. I wish I never met you, Natalie whispered. She left the room, with Liam. Eleanor sighed. You have to choose. I already did, I replied. That night I met Olivia alone on the rooftop of the Hawthorne Tower. You always did enjoy theatrics, she said. Here's one for you, I said, tossing her a phone. She caught it. The screen lit up. Live stream, Evelyn, in chains, confessing. Every name, every lab, every donor. What did you do? I gave her what she wanted, which was to be remembered. I stepped close. You have 48 hours to resign, or I flip the kill switch on your digital DNA trails. The public won't just cancel you, they'll erase you. She said nothing, but I saw it in her eyes. Doubt, fear. The virus had found the code. I returned to the safe house just before sunrise. Liam was in the garden, watching a frog hop along the edge of the stone path. He looked up. You're not like her, he said softly. No, I replied, but I'm not like your mom either. He nodded. Then be like you. Inside, Eleanor poured coffee. I have a new location for Liam and Natalie. Untraceable. And you? She looked at me. I'm not built for quiet. My phone vibrated. Message from an encrypted source. Echo 4 is gone. Someone extracted her during the monastery fire. We think she's in the U.S. I stood in the middle of the boardroom, empty, cold. The table where generations carved futures now felt like a coffin lid, one I wasn't sure I could shut. Evelyn's confession had gone live 3 hours ago, broadcast from a secure satellite loop, duplicated across 12 anonymous servers, dripping into the feeds of whistleblower sites and financial watchdogs. The world hadn't caught up yet, but it would. Barrett leaned in the doorway. "You just made yourself the most dangerous man alive." "No," I said. "The most expendable." He tossed me a file. U.S. Intel just flagged a Marcellus Shell Company, Georgia. Looks like Echo 4 is being funneled into a Guardian program. Adoption on paper, military prep in reality. And no one's intervening? They think she's just a child. I stared out the window. So was Liam. And look what they did to him. Downstairs, Eleanor typed furiously. Her hair was tied up, glasses on, sleeves rolled. She looked like the person I first met. Ruthless, exacting, exhausted. "They're wiping the board," she said without looking up. "Hayden vanished. Olivia moved to a private island. Morgan's in custody, but he'll flip, eventually. What about Echo 4? She stopped typing. "She knows who you are. That's all we know." Natalie called from the road. She and Liam had made it to the Canadian border. "Is he okay?" I asked. She hesitated. "He's free. That's enough." I wanted to believe that. I walked into Evelyn's cell one last time. She was pale, thinner, smiling. "Did it hurt?" she asked. "When you made me? When you broke yourself?" I sat across from her. No chains this time. "Echo 4, what was her purpose?" "She was the answer to your flaw," Evelyn said. "She has no mother to love, no memory to corrupt, no name to protect. She's pure." "Where is she?" She smiled wider. "Already watching you." I stood. "Goodbye, Evelyn." "No," she said. "You'll never be rid of me, because deep down you believe me." I left the cell. Barrett waited outside. "You done?" "Almost." We drove through the city in silence, stopped at the rooftop where everything had begun, and there I pulled the termination protocol from my coat, 1 USB drive, 1 digital bullet. Barrett lit a cigarette. "You sure?" "No, but I don't want to become what she built." I dropped the drive over the edge, watched it vanish into the fog. Some ghosts weren't meant to be archived. Hours later, as I walked into the empty Hawthorne office one last time, I found a letter on my desk. No name, no signature, just a child's handwriting. "You're not like her, but I might be. Come find me. Echo 4." I buried Evelyn Crane in an unmarked grave. No service, no headline, no legacy, just dirt. I didn't do it for her. I did it to prove I was still human. Barrett said nothing. He stood nearby, arms crossed, scanning the horizon like violence could rise out of the ground. "She never broke," he said after a while. "She never mattered," I replied. He nodded, but we both knew the truth. She mattered because she broke so many others. Back in the city, the board collapsed like rotted scaffolding. Olivia Dent resigned under fabricated illness. Morgan Tay struck a plea deal in exchange for names. Hayden Cross vanished into Russian territory. Rumors swirled, but no body surfaced. I didn't care. I didn't want vengeance anymore. I wanted silence. Natalie sent one last message from Montreal. "We're staying," it read. "He's drawing again. You should see the sky he painted. It looks like freedom." I didn't respond. I saved it. I moved into a farmhouse on the outskirts of Milan. No staff, no phone line, just land and quiet. Eleanor visited once. She stood by the door in civilian clothes, no makeup, no armor. "You're not running," she said. "I'm healing," she nodded. "The girl's still out there. I know. She could be anything. I hope she chooses to be someone." Eleanor stayed for 2 nights, then left. No goodbye, no promise, just peace. 6 months passed. Then, one morning, a letter arrived. No return address. Inside, a crayon drawing, a field, 2 figures, one tall, one small, and a message. "You were right. I don't need to be her. I want to be me. I'm sorry." Signed, Echo 4. But below it, in clumsy cursive, "My name is Iris." I held the paper for a long time. Then I folded it, slid it into my coat, and walked outside into the wind. Some legacies are built. Some are inherited. Mine, it was survived.